Hello everybody, welcome back to my Bible study. So last time we got through verses 6 through 23 in Genesis chapter 1. So we're going to continue on today starting with verse 24, and we're going to go through at least verse 31. So there's going to be a few notes along the way in the Scofield Bible, but in my older Bible, the New King James, there's only one note between now and then. So we'll go through and we're going to read verses 24 through 31 in my old Bible, the New King James one, that first. And then we'll go through Scofield reading the notes along the way after that. So, without further ado, let us begin and pray that God gives me some good insights. Alright, starting at verse 24, it says, Then God said, Let the earth bring forth the living creature according to its kind, cattle and creeping thing, and beasts of the earth, each according to its kind. And it was so. And God made the beasts of the earth according to its kind, cattle according to its kind, everything that creeps on the earth according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So I believe I mentioned at some point in one of the introductions, I don't remember if it was the introduction to the study or the introduction to Genesis. I'm pretty sure I remember mentioning the fact that I believe that there's a divine council that God discusses things with. Not that they're as high as him, he just has, he's like Yoda, he's the Grandmaster, he's on top. And then he has a council of people, of divine beings that he talks to. So that's why that's what I believe is the reason why he says, Let us make man in our image and our likeness. But and there's also a note here for that verse 26. It says the Syriac reads all the wild animals of, and that's instead of over all the earth. So it would be, instead of over all the earth, it would be over all the wild animals of the earth. So, yeah, that's the only note in this Bible, though. So let us continue and move on through verse 27 through 31. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. Then God blessed them, and God said to them, Be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth. And then God said, See, I have given you every herb that yields seed which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed. To you it shall be for food. Also to every beast of the earth, to every bird of the air, and to everything that creeps on the earth, in which there is life, I have given every green herb for food. And it was so. Then God saw everything that he had made, and indeed it was very good. So the evening and the morning were the sixth day. That kind of makes it sound like animals didn't eat each other back then. And I knew that there wasn't all this conflict. There wasn't conflict between animals and humans and between the animals back then. That they would have absolutely only killed for food if they did eat each other. That kind of almost seems like everyone was herbivores back then. Though I'm not sure. I have a hard time picturing wolves and Tyrannosaurus rexes eating vegetation. So I think, I don't know what I think. Maybe the carnivores weren't carnivores until after the fall. It's possible. They are definitely carnivores now. If you tried to feed a dog or cat on veggies, it would not go well for them. So anyway, that will be a question that I will have answered when I meet Jesus in heaven. Or maybe he'll answer it for me before then. Who knows? We'll see. So, moving on to the Scofield Bible. There's more notes in this section than there were in that. Because, this whole part of the page is our notes with verse 28 is the last one that these are notes for. Alright, so anyways, let's read through this and read through the notes along the way. And God said, "Let the land produce living creatures according to their kinds, livestock, creatures that move along the ground, and wild animals, each according to its kind." And it was so. And the note it has here for verse 24 says, "Creatures." In itself, nefesh, or soul, implies conscious living life, or conscious life, as distinguished from plants, which have unconscious life. In the sense of conscious life, an animal also has a soul. Oh! I have proven that animals have a soul. The word there, nefesh, means soul. And it's used to refer to creatures here. Animals do have souls. You just gotta know the proper, what the actual word is here. Because if reading that without knowing that the original word was nefesh, it doesn't say whether they have a soul or not. But if you look at the original word, nefesh, which means soul, it implies that animals have souls. In fact, I would go far as to say it clearly states that they do. It doesn't just imply it. That makes me so happy. I've always believed that animals have souls. I've always believed that. And now I have my proof. I mean, really, how could animals not have a soul? They're conscious beings. They have emotions and personalities just like we do. And that's where we get those things from our souls. That makes me so happy. Anyways, let's continue. Verse 25. God made the wild animals according to their kinds, the livestock according to their kinds, and all the creatures that move along the ground according to their kinds. And God saw that it was good. Verse 26. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, in our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea, and the birds of the air, over the livestock, over all the earth, and over all the creatures that move along the ground." Alright, and here's where there's another note. There's actually a few notes in this one. So the first note, it says, man. Genesis 1:26 through 27 gives the general account of the creation of man. And Genesis 2, verses 7 and 21 through 23, the particular. The revealed facts are: 1. Man was created, not evolved. This is expressly declared and confirmed by Christ in Matthew 19:4. Let's go read that. Verse 4. And he answered and said to them, have you not read that he who made them at the beginning made them male and female? Yeah. He says, he who made them. And Mark 10, verse 6 is the other verse it gives for that. Verse 6. But from the beginning of creation, God made them male and female. Which quoted a verse that we just read. Anyways. It is also confirmed by the unbridgeable chasm between man and beast. The highest beast has no God consciousness. And then in parentheses it says religious nature. And that's referring to the spirit, because the spirit is the part that communicates with God. Though, personally, I think that they do communicate with God, because have you ever had an animal and it seemed like they knew something that you wouldn't think that they should know? I have. I mean, they're very attuned with the feelings and the emotions of the people around them. And I don't know. I just feel like, as attuned as they are to everything, that they have to be aware of God's presence. And they don't communicate the way that we communicate. So who are we to be really for sure that they don't hear from God? It's like, it doesn't annoy me as much as like people who try to say kids can't hear from God, and brush off anything a kid would say that they heard God tell them. It doesn't quite annoy me as much as that. But it does annoy me a little bit, because we can't really know that for certain. That's an interpretation. It never says in the Bible that the animals don't hear from God. I mean, at one point it says, if man doesn't praise God, even the rocks would cry out in praise of God. So, I feel like that's a little inaccurate. But that's me. As you can see, whoever wrote these notes and me just don't agree on that particular point. As I mentioned in response to a comment and before, I will always say if I don't agree with the interpretation given in the notes that I'm reading. Anyway, so the next note here about verse 26 says, man was made in the image and likeness of God. This image is found chiefly in the fact that man is a personal, rational, and moral being. Although God is infinite and man is finite, man possesses the element of personality similar to those of the divine person: thinking, feeling, willing. Man has a moral nature, is implicit in the record, and is further tested by New Testament usage. Man is also, according to 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 23, a triunity, made up of body, soul, and spirit. But because God is a spirit, this tripartite nature of man is not to be confused with the original image and likeness of God, which, being spiritual, relates to the elements of personality. That's an interesting note. I mean, I can see some of those same things in animals. So I'm not entirely convinced that those things alone are what makes us the image of God. I think it's more the authority we're supposed to have over the earth, which we kind of lost with the fall. So we're supposed to take care of the animals and the creatures of the earth, and we don't do that. As a whole, society as a whole does not do that. I mean, there's some of us who do. Well, that's some food for thought. Anyways, I would think on that. Actually, you know what? Let's go to these notes. Or at least some of them. Let's go to the Ephesians chapter 4, verse 23 through 24. That's the note it gives for when it's talking about that man has a moral nature, or being implicit in the records. See verses 23 to 24. And be renewed in the spirit of your mind, and that you put on the new man, which was created according to God, in true righteousness and holiness. So, I guess that makes sense for moral. Let's see if Colossians makes more sense to me for that. No idea where we are in Bible study anymore. I have missed two. Let's see, verse 10. And have put on the new man who is renewed in knowledge according to the image of him who created him. So I think it's what it's saying, those are saying, is that there's an implicit morality that is within man, and whether that's good or bad, it exists in us from forever. And it's saying, like, for those who, it's saying put on the new man, as in, like, go through these new morals, I guess. I'm not entirely sure what those verses have to do with the morality. I mean, I know it means, like, old things have passed away, God has made the old new. I know that means that, like, if at one point I forgot to put on my headband, oh well, I don't need it every single episode. If you are a bad person who does things that are morally wrong and incorrect, that when you put on the new man, that means you're not going to do those things anymore. Like, if you are a person who lies, when you come to Jesus and you start following in his way, that means that you gotta put away those lies, and you gotta tell the truth from now on. At least do your best to do so. Understand how old habits die hard. I've been there with old habits that die hard. But you gotta make an effort. Be a better person every day. I think that's what that's meaning. That's my interpretation of what I believe it means. Anyways, so, the next note is a pretty big one. The Minion. The Bible is a unity and the purpose of God is one. Man created in God's image was placed in sovereignty over the earth, crowned with glory and honor, yet subject to God his Creator. The divine intention was and is that man should have fellowship with God in obedience. Sin came, which is rebellion against the will of God, and man became separated from God and lost sovereignty over the earth. The goal of God is to restore sinning man to his likeness, fellowship, and dominion. Yet at present, we do not see everything subject to him. Which in brackets it says mankind there. But we see Jesus, crowned with glory and honor, in anticipation of many sons sharing his fellowship and dominion. This is in accordance with the first promise of redemption. In the meantime, we wait with patient assurance for God's complete victory on the earth, for the working out of God's purpose of total redemption. See note on dispensations at 128, which will be the next note we reach. And I'm not going to go through all these verses in the interest of time, but it gives, periodically through that note, it gives Psalms chapter 8, verses 5 through 8, Genesis chapter 2, 15 through 17, Genesis chapter 3, 8 through 10, Genesis chapter 3, 17 through 19, Romans chapter 8, verse 29, Revelation chapter 21, verse 3, and chapter 20, verse 6, as well as chapter 22, verse 5, Hebrews chapter 2, verses 8 through 9, Romans chapter 8, 17 through 19, Genesis chapter 3, verse 15, Romans chapter 8, 19 through 25, 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verses 24 through 28, and Revelations chapter 11, verses 15 through 18, and references throughout that period. So you guys can go and read those verses. I feel like you guys don't need me to read every single verse to you. But, so continuing on, at verse 27, it says, So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him. Male and female, he created them. Moving on to verse 28. God blessed them and said to them, Be fruitful and increase in number. Fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air, over every living creature that moves on the ground. Oh my gosh, there's so much notes here. I'm actually going to leave this off here. I will pick this up in the next episode, and we will go through the remainder of through verse 31 in this Bible. We'll start at verse 28 because that's where the next note is. It's so big. It's going to take me at least another 10-20 minutes to get through this. So we'll finish this up in the next episode. In the meantime, thank you guys all so much for watching. Like and subscribe down below if you want to see more. Let me know what you think in the comment section. And as always, keep it real, spread the love, and stay determined. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye!